That's kind of where the discussion is with regards to the Premier League at the moment, with Manchester City so far ahead. General consensus is Liverpool, of course, and Chelsea will finish second and third. So it's all about that fourth spot. From what we've seen, Jules, all of these teams, of course, have got problems. Is it going to be a case of the team that's got the least problems?
Yeah, maybe. Although they're very different problems, really, when you think about United and Ralf Rangnick and how he will have to implement all his ideas and making that work and click. With Mikel Arteta, he's clearly trying to get as many people fit as he can and try to get those young players keeping this level and this consistency, because as we know, especially for young players, sometimes it's just a bit up and down. I think for West Ham, he's trying to do what they did last season, beating the team that are outside of that top four, and then it doesn't matter if you lose against Liverpool, City and Chelsea. I mean, to be fair, this is pretty much the same for all the other three as well. And then you've got Spurs with Conte, who I think a lot will depend on who they can get, if they get some new players in January, because they still need more creativity, they still need to be better defensively, especially in games like this. You saw today, and Nathan alluded to it, they're just not good enough defensively for most of the games. So I think different problems, but you're right, in the end it's the same narrative. Whoever will finish fourth is probably the one who will make the less mistakes, especially once again in the game, who are not against City, Liverpool and Chelsea, because you expect to lose those anyway. So yeah, it'd be very fascinating, I think, that race for top four, for the fourth place in top four.
General consensus, even just a couple of weeks ago, that Manchester United were favourites to finish in the top four because of the quality of their squad. But of course, since then, we saw that poor performance against Newcastle, defeat against Wolves as well. It's the first time we've had you on, Jan. Since then, you told us Ralf Rangnick would be good. He's rubbish.
Well, first of all, now, Dan, I can hear you. I can hear your English. I can hear your English in your analysis. That is point one. Secondly, I mean, it's true. I mean, Newcastle away and the Wolves at home. I think the Wolves game was even worse, because I think that Wolves showed through their manager how a great system can work, and Manchester United was so far away from that. So I said that they're talking about gegenpressing, but it looked like depressing for Manchester United. And I think that Ralf Rangnick at least got to get him a week in training on a training ground. I mean, in 2022 you never have time anyway, but let's see how he's doing. But I must say, there is some embarrassing thing around Manchester United at the moment. I mean, if there are signals out now, there are some people in the dressing room are not happy with Rangnick. He came 5 minutes ago. I mean, have a look at yourself. I mean, that is embarrassing. There's top players. They're playing top players for their country, and they're blaming other teams on the manager.
Jan, I'm sorry, but I think before the game against Newcastle, Rangnick had 2 weeks to work with the players, and he did. And nothing happened. Well, yeah, the worst. They even play worse than they used to.
Frank, fair enough. And but if you have a look at the coaches who have arrived in England, I think only Tuchel, you can see a sudden impact on their team. I'm not saying that Ralf Rangnick will be a success as Manchester United, but I think that it's very early to kind of judge what kind of team he will get there. But
Again, Jan, I'm sorry. You're naming Tuchel, but I can name Conte. Conte arrived 8 games without losing a game, you know. So some coach can have a real impact. I think the problem with Rangnick, I'm sorry, I'm going to finish. The problem with Rangnick is I think he's not legitimate towards some players to be listened to. That's the main concern that he has. He has to get the dressing room, and so far he hasn't gotten it, because he's a non. He has maybe talent, but I think he's not listened by some players.
It's a very good point, Frank, in terms of people talking about coaches losing the dressing room. You make a very good point. It's also about winning the dressing room. And I think Ralf Rangnick got to win the dressing room with his ideas. That's what I'm saying. Let's see what he's doing in training. But last time I checked, without being the lawyer of Ralf Rangnick, this was the first loss he had for Manchester United. So we can use the stats as we want.
Jules, the concerning thing from a United perspective is that we've saw, once again, over the last 24 hours in the UK newspapers, these reports that the players aren't happy. It's really early, isn't it, in a manager's tenure to have these sort of stories leaking out?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's the most worrying, because of course we can always discuss the tactics and the 4-2-2-2 and the pressing or not pressing, all of this, of course, and some of these ideas and methods just take time overall anyway. But I think the most worrying is those noise that come from the training ground. We know that, especially at United, there's a lot of things that are often leaked to some of the tabloids, some of the press in general here in England, and that's not the kind of noise that you want. That there's players unrest. There's some of them are not happy, and I think Jan is right. I mean, after the guy just being here for a few weeks when a lot of this squad has had COVID. So it's not even if you'd been living all together for a month. You know, some would not have seen him for 2 weeks. So I find it a bit strange that already you've had enough of him, if we believe those reports, and certainly I think there's a lot of truth in it, because he deserves a chance like anybody else, of course, regardless of who you are and who you played for before. And I don't feel that maybe he's been given this chance by the dressing room, so there's still plenty of time for him to get things right and for him to get the respect from the dressing room. But it's wrong already that we even have to talk about Ralf Rangnick and who he is, trying to get the respect from the Manchester United dressing room.
Nedum, you must have seen this in your Manchester City days, of course, a dressing room full of big stars. It must be very difficult for a manager, once they turn on him, to get him back.
Yeah, I think so, but I think there's a subtle difference. If we're going to talk about, say, that time at Man City with Mancini, like, he laid things out, he was in charge, this is how it's going to be, this is how you're going to play. If you don't do it, you won't play and you won't see anything at all. I think with this situation that we're having here, it feels really strange, because for the players, like, why is information being leaked out? Because it's of no benefit to you. Because at this point in time, nobody has any sympathy for Manchester United players at all. There's almost like a sense that for some of them, they're entitled, they're underperforming, you know, they don't deserve any credit and so on. So why release something at all, which is going to make you seem like that furthers that narrative? It's really, really strange. And I think Jan made a great point. I think at times, you know, you can lose the dressing room, but winning it is also key. But for those guys, this is your boss. This could be someone that's involved in the club for many years. Just buy into what he's saying. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's not going to be down to you to decide if you want to do it or you don't. He's in charge of you at the football club. If he says train at 7 p.m. at night for the next 7 nights, like, that's what you've got to do. And I think that's the difference, really. Some teams and some groups of players, they'll just go out and they'll do what the manager says, and they'll buy into it, and then there'll be success that'll come from it. But if you go with any strategy half-hearted, ultimately you'll see failed results. And even though they don't like it, the fact is the manager was brought in for a reason. It's because they were underperforming under the last guy. So they have to at least give it a try and then see what happens. But when it's 50-50, you will get nothing whatsoever.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.